Krishna, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. Back to our continuing series on the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dhama. Happy to be with you again. We'll begin by glorifying Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastita Deshatarane. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So, today we'll continue with our mini-series on the glories of Govardhan Hill. In our last lecture, we went into quite some detail in describing how two of our acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Narada Muni, how they envisioned Govardhan Hill. Let's hear some more delightful details of Govardhan Hill from Vrindavan Mahimamrita, Ujjvala Nilamani, Padyavali, and Chaitanya Charitamrita today. So, in those sublime scriptures, we hear how the secluded valleys of Govardhan Hill are flooded with the sounds of cuckoo birds who sing the fifth note. There's that description of the valleys. We often hear of this fifth note in our Gaudiya Vaishnava literature. For example, in Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati's Vrindavan Mahimamrita Sataka 1, text number 7, he writes, I meditate on Vrindavan where the cuckoos sing the fifth note. The flute plays splendid melodies, peacocks sing and dance, vines and trees bloom, charming forests are wonderful with many birds and deer, and there are many splendid lakes, streams and hills. And of course, we hear Srimati Radharani also glorify this fifth note. This verse appears in several places in our scriptures. It's in Padyavali, text 387. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but still I would like to go to the bank of the Jamuna, beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan. So, what exactly is this fifth note? Well, in classical Indian music, we have what are called ragas. Most devotees are familiar with ragas, which are basically, set musical compositions. And in any musical composition, there's 7 pitches or 7 sounds that are used. In Sanskrit, these pitches or these sounds are called svaras. And these 7 svaras are sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. And the Western equivalent of these 7 pitches or sounds, svaras, are, as you probably know, do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti. So in Indian classical music, which originally comes from the Samveda and was later elaborated on by Bharat Muni in the Natya Shastra. Each pitch or each sound is associated with the sound of an animal or a bird. In classical music, or any music really, well, classical music, in Samveda. Each of those 7 pitches is associated with the sound of an animal or a bird. For example, sa is the peacock's cry. Ri is a cow calling her calf. Ga is a goat's bleat. Ma, a heron's cry. Pa, the cuckoo's song, the 5th, pa. Da, the horse's neigh. And ni, the elephant's trumpeting. So we're inquiring specifically about this 5th note, which we heard resembles the sound of a cuckoo. Pa, the sound of a cuckoo. Now, why is the 5th note the sound of a cuckoo bird so special, in Vrindavan especially? Because the acharyas say that the fifth note is the cuckoo's cry when separated from her lover. That pa sound she makes, she's crying that in separation from her lover. So the fifth note is important because it invokes the mood of separation, vipralambha bhav, which is so prominent in Braja Lila. So now we know why we hear often this fifth note. It indicates that mood of vipralambha bhav. It's very sweet. And I was thinking one day, when a movie producer produces a beautiful film, a first-class film on Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, he can call that movie The Fifth Note. And one of our acharyas, he shares a slightly humorous pastime about the fifth note, although it's a very serious matter. But there's a little humor. He relates that one time when Krishna and the gopis met for rasa dance, Krishna kind of like boasting to the gopis, he very confidently sang up to the fifth note. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa. But then the gopis sang higher. It appears you can go higher. They went up to the eighth. Da, ni, sa. And Krishna was a little surprised because the acharya says, Krishna can't sing that high. So he glorified the gopis. He said, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You've all done marvelously. So in these secluded valleys of Govardhan Hill, they're flooded with the sounds of cuckoos singing on the fifth note. And Govardhan's peaks, to continue, Govardhan's peaks serve as platforms for dancing peacocks. It's said that sometimes these peacocks, they mistake Krishna's peacock-feathered turban to be a rain cloud, and they start to dance in ecstasy. We also learn that there are many types of very colorful singing birds, multicolored, like rainbow birds on the branches of Giriraj's trees. And Giriraj's slopes, the slope means it's coming down from the mountain, are used as lookouts for deer to climb on, and from a distance watch Krishna tending his cows. And it's described because there's no envy in the spiritual world. There's no envy in Vrindavan. One can often see a large assortment of animals and birds and insects, like boars, deers, bears, rabbits, tigers, gathered harmoniously together on top of Govardhan Hill, with their eyes all focused on Krishna, dancing nearby with his gopis. I really like that one. You know, they're all together. You just imagine all these varieties of animals, they're all there harmoniously just gazing upon Krishna as he dances with the gopis. Now, in Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, we hear a beautiful verse from Ishwara Puri where he mentions these fortunate creatures. In a special verse he composed, wherein he invites the Lord to perform his Vrindavan pastimes in our hearts. Wouldn't that be nice? He's inviting the Lord to perform his Vrindavan pastimes in our hearts. Vrindavan also resides within our hearts, if we wanted to. So, Ishwara Puri, he writes, may the cowherd boy, who is a festival of ecstatic bliss for the hearts of the fortunate creatures residing in the groves of Govardhan Hill, who is the lover of the gopis, who eagerly enjoys pastimes in Vrindavan's forests, and whose complexion is as splendid as a great blue sapphire, eternally enjoy transcendental pastimes in our hearts. Now the acharyas describe that in the flowering, blossoming trees on Govardhan Hill, one can hear the cheerful chatter of parrots, which mixes with the taste and aroma of honey, oozing from those blooming flowers. And when that mixture ferments, by the touch of sunbeams streaming through the forest canopy, a special kind of nectar is created, which serves as a stimulant for Radha and Krishna's loving pastimes. I got a little cold here. It's getting really cold in India. So in this beautiful spiritual atmosphere of Govardhan Hill that we've been discussing for several lectures now, Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends, they sport and they play. It's described endless games, endless. However, the acharyas say that Govardhan is more than just a playground for the cowherd boys. As Haridas Varya, he also serves in the capacity of informing Srimati Radharani where Krishna is at any time, at any place. That's his service. And how does he do this? Because Govardhan Hill is so big, he's so high, that he can see it all over Vrindavan. And he can see, tell Radha, oh, Krishna is there, Krishna is there. One service he does. It's described that during King Kamsa's reign in Mathura as the king, Giriraj was so high that he blocked out the sun 24/7 in Mathura. There was no sunshine, which made Kamsa very upset. What's more, Giriraj was so tall that when the sun god was traversing the skies on his chariot high in the heavens, he carries the sun like this, he would sometimes stop and rest on top of Giriraj Govardhan. That's how high Giriraj was. The sun god's in the heavens. And Giriraj was so high that the sun god would stop his chariot, take a break on top of Govardhan Hill. So one service of Giriraj is to inform Radha where Krishna is. This is described nicely in Ujjvala Nilamani, 1098. That one time, feeling deep separation from Krishna, Radharani appealed to Govardhan Hill as follows. O Giriraj, O King of Mountains, you shine very splendidly in this holy land of Goloka, of Gokula. With your many lofty peaks thrusting into the sky, please look around in all directions and tell me, where is Krishna, that jewel amongst cowherd boys? Where is he now enjoying his pastimes? In Gokul. On another occasion, Radha actually mistook Govardhan Hill for Krishna. How's that possible? Because at that moment, on top of Govardhan, she saw blue clouds mixing with flashes of yellow lightning. And in her ecstasy, her bhav, that she took that to be Krishna, because Krishna is bluish black like a monsoon cloud and he wears yellow garments. So in desperation, it's described in Ujjvala Leelamani, in desperation, Radha turned to Lalita. He said, ask Krishna, you see he's there. Come on, tell him to come join us. So Lalita said, wait a minute, Radha, where are the yellow garments that you're referring to? Where's his peacock feather? Where is Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa? Oh, desperate friend, blinded by transcendental passion, please do not fall into illusion like this. Look closer, Radha. Wipe away the tears of love that make you see charm in every nook and cranny of Vrindavan. What you see is actually a lightning flash, clouds, and a rainbow above Govardhan Hill. Now Govardhan Hill, again, he's Haridas Varya. He's the best servant. He can be seen as Krishna, or he can be seen as the best servant according to your devotion. But as Haridas Varya, he assists Krishna in many other ways as well. For example, it's described that when the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls visit Govardhan Hill, they're very careful not to meet, not even to cross paths, not to mix together, because, as we know, the social norms that are there in Vrindavan. Of course, sometimes Krishna arranges that these groups do meet, the boys and the girls do meet, like in the Dan Keli pastimes when the boys are taxing the girls. But in general, It's described Govardhan Hill helps the groups keep apart. And there's an example how he does this. It's said that when Krishna walks on Govardhan Hill, by the touch of his lotus feet, sometimes the stones turn a blue sapphire color. And when Balaram walks on Govardhan Hill, his lotus feet sometimes turn the stones a crystal color, like white crystal. And the same is true for Srimati Radharani. Her lotus feet turn the stones a bright golden color. So, if Balaram is walking on Govardhan Hill and he sees a trail of golden stones, meaning Radha, he thinks, oh, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, Radharani, must have walked this way. So Balaram then changes course to avoid an awkward situation. And Srimati Radharani does the same when she's walking on Govardhan. When she sees a trail of crystal stones, she thinks, oh, Dauji, he must have come this way, and she goes in another direction. So, why go in different directions? Krishna, Balaram, Radha? Well, Srila Prabhupada has said that it's not proper etiquette for an older brother to observe the loving affairs of his younger brother. This is the finesse of etiquette described in our Vaishnava culture. Actually, I remember one time when Srila Prabhupada visited us in Paris, France, and when he entered into the temple room for darshan of the deities, he observed them for a moment, then he became upset. We had Radha and Krishna deities, Shri Radha Parasishwara, on the altar, and just beside them we had Jagannath deities, which meant that Radharani was just next to Lord Balaram. It was a fairly small altar. Like you can envision, there's Krishna, then there's Radha, a very short distance away. They were the Jagannath deities, which meant Balaram, Subhadra, and Jagannath. So Radharani and Balaram are pretty close. So Prabhupada's looking, he's getting visibly upset, and that's when he made that statement. It's not proper etiquette for an older brother, Dauji, to observe the loving affairs of a younger brother, Krishna. He said, you must have a separation between Radha and Balaram. So he jumped into action, and the next morning, when Prabhupada took darshan of the deities, the ladies, pujaris, they made a very beautiful bamboo separation between the sets of deities, between Radharani and Balaram. And I was looking at Prabhupada, and I could see he nodded his head in appreciation. The subtleties of Braj Bhakti. So, Giriraj facilitates leelas on his sacred slopes, keeping the boys and the girls separate. However, he facilitates the meetings of Radha and Krishna. For when Krishna is walking on Govardhan Hill, and he sees a single golden stone, he embraces it as if it was his beloved Radha. And when he sees a trail of golden stones, he follows it, hoping to meet Sri Radha. And whenever Sri Radha sees a sapphire-colored stone, she thinks, I have found Krishna. And she embraces it in that mood, I have found Krishna. Much as Lord Chaitanya did when he embraced a stone on Govardhan Hill. I have found Krishna. That incident is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 1816. Govardhan Dheki Prabhu Hahaila Dandavat Ekashila Alin Ghiya Haila Un Mata. When the Lord saw Govardhan Hill, he immediately offered obeisances, falling down on the ground like a rod. He then embraced one piece of rock from Govardhan Hill and became mad in ecstasy. Same. Actually, Mahaprabhu, we know he made one visit to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri in the year 1515. And he did one Govardhan Parikrama in which he manifested many ecstatic symptoms. And because he was so attracted, he had so much love for Giriraj, his immediate followers, like the 6 Goswamis, they also had the same mood. They're very attached and in love with Giriraj. Srila Sanatana Goswami, in particular, he resided for quite some time at Govardhan Hill, at a place called Chakra Tirtha. Chakra Tirtha. Chakra refers to the Lord's Sudarshan Chakra, and Tirtha means holy place. So Chakra Tirtha is the holy place, a holy place, because it's the exact spot where the Sudarshan Chakra spun in the sky above Govardhan Hill and on the ground around Giriraj, clearing all the rain that the clouds were pouring down on Vrindavan. And that Tirtha is situated on the banks of Manasi Ganga, that famous lake that's right in the middle of Govardhan Hill. We discussed Manasi Ganga elaborately many months ago. Very beautiful place. In the Vayu Purana, we find a prana mantra for Chakra Tirtha, where that Manasi Ganga is lying there, where he's situated on the banks of the Manasi Ganga. There's a prana mantra for Chakra Tirtha. It goes like this: Chakra Tirtha namastubhyam Krishna chakrena lanchitam sarva papa chide tasmai Krishna nirmala nirmitam. My obeisances to Chakra Tirtha, which is marked with Lord Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra, which frees a visitor, a pilgrim, from all sins and makes him pure at heart. Let's run there. Chakra Tirtha. Now, after Krishna had put down Giriraj, Govardhan Hill, Sudarshan Chakra approached Krishna. Sudarshan Chakra is usually associated with Vishnu, but Krishna used him in that pastime. And afterwards, Sudarshan Chakra came very humbly, and he requested if he could reside somewhere in the Govardhan area. Like after Uddhava had come to Vrindavan, he also wanted to stay in Vrindavan. So Krishna felt obliged to his eternal weapon. It's described like that. Sudarshan Chakra is described as the Lord's eternal weapon. So he gave him this spot to become Chakra Tirtha as a place of bhajan. And the acharyas say that Krishna also wanted Sudarshan to witness the spontaneous, loving devotion of the Brajabasis. It's also described that at Chakra Tirtha, Lord Shiva, Parvati, Ganesh, and Nandi also reside. Lord Shiva resides there in the form of a Shiva lingam called Chakeshwara Mahadev. Chakeshwara Mahadev. Eshwara or Ishwara means controller. So that Shiva lingam's called the controller of that chakra. Of course, Krishna or Vishnu is the controller of the Sudarshan chakra. But some devotees, they say that that Shiva shares the same name because it is he who ordered Sudarshan to dry up Indra's torrential rains. Some other devotees, they say that Lord Shiva came to that pastime as Krishna was lifting Govardhan Hill, and he put up his powerful trident and he spun it like this, acting as a chakra. So, but he resides there in the form of the Shiva lingam, and because of Lord Shiva's presence at Chakra Tirtha, it's said that by going there and chanting Hare Krishna, a devotee easily gets the same benefit as trekking all the way to Mount Kailash. Pretty potent place. I mean, I had the good fortune to go to Mount Kailash with a number of very nice devotees, but it was an arduous, difficult, often painful. There's no oxygen up there, Mount Kailash. It was very different and dangerous. Well worth it. It was very mystical. But I could have as easily gone to Govardhan Hill and gone to Manasi Ganga and gone to Chakra Tirtha, and in front of that Shiva Lingam, just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now I know. So, Sanatana Goswami, he's intimately linked with Chakratirtha because he lived there. It was one of his bhajan kutirs. There he worshipped Radha and Krishna in a kutir facing Lord Shiva. And it's also the place that he left this world. This is where Sanatana Goswami left this world. On the day of Guru Purnima, that's the day in India where everyone worships their guru. He left on that day. And after his departure, the Brajabasis came brought him, his body, to Madan Mohan temple, closer to the Jamuna River, and placed him in samadhi there a few meters away from the temple. It's one of my favorite places in Vrindavan. When I go, I always make it a point to go to Sanatana Goswami samadhi and pray for mercy, pray for the power, the purity to preach Krishna consciousness. So Sanatana Goswami is very dear to Brajabasis, so dear. So much so that in his honor, more people circumambulate Govardhan Hill on Guru Purnima, his disappearance day, in honor of him, more than even on the day of Govardhan Puja. Because Srila Sanatana Goswami was famous, he was very personal with the Brajabasis when he was living in Vrindavan. He used to visit their homes and give them both spiritual and practical advice. Marital problems, debts, farming. He was that kind of sadhu. So much so that he's missed by the Brajabasis even today. As we discussed many times, there's no distress more painful than separation from Krishna's devotee. Sanatana Goswami himself, he said, when we are separated from a devotee, even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. Actually, the full statement is in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, 1:544. Very beautiful verse. He's written, out of all kinds of desirable things experienced in the life of a living entity, association with the devotees of the Lord is the greatest. When we are separated from a devotee, even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. And I think we're getting an understanding of that, aren't we, during this global pandemic now with this coronavirus? We're all separated to the umpteenth degree in some situations. And it's painful. There's austerities, being cooped up all day and this and that, but really the hard part's missing the devotees. And I was thinking that understanding and realizing this, we should all learn to appreciate our juniors, our peers, and our seniors while they're still physically present. And not wait for them to leave this world before we glorify them. So Sanatana Goswami, he actually came to Vrindavan on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was a mere 27 years old. And I was reading that wherever he took up residence, either in Vrindavan or Govardhan, Kamyavan, Nandagram, he would never be that far away, very far away from the deity of Lord Shiva. In a commentary, a purport in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, 2.3.62, he explains why he liked living near Lord Shiva. He writes, quote, "There's nothing wrong with being attracted to Lord Shiva." This is a purport to the text he wrote. "Since he is non-different from Lord Krishna, devotion to him is also devotion to Krishna. More precisely, when one satisfies Lord Shiva by pure devotion to him, Lord Shiva helps one to become more devoted to Krishna." In other words, he liked living near Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva helps one become more devoted to Krishna. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. He's the greatest devotee, as the Bhagavatam says. And what's the heart of a devotee? Devotee has a very soft heart. He wants to help others become Krishna conscious. He's not satisfied to be a devotee himself. He wants to go out and bring people into the fold of Krishna consciousness. So Lord Shiva helps one become more devoted to Krishna, which of course was Srila Sanatana Goswami's main purpose in life, as all of us now, to come closer and closer and closer. Krishna, Radhe. So from that purport in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, it's very clear that Sanatana Goswami was attached to Shiva. And Lord Shiva was also very attached to Sanatana Goswami, because as we said many times, love is a two-way street. Between two Vaishnavas, between guru and disciple, between all of us and Krishna. So he was very attached to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was attached to him. And that's very evident in the following pastime, which many of us know in a certain way, but here's another version of this pastime, which really is the most popular version in Vrindavan. I remember hearing it from Gaur Govinda Maharaj and other Brajavasis as well. Anyway, you can take your pick. There's sometimes different versions of pastimes, but this is nice. We can see how Lord Shiva appreciated Sanatana Goswami by sending someone to him for instruction. It's short and sweet. There was once a Brahmana in Varanasi who one day he went to the temple and he prayed to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, I want to give my daughter in marriage, but I have no money. Please give me some money. So Lord Shiva told him, he spoke to him, go to Vrindavan and meet with Srila Sanatana Goswami. You can ask him to give you some wealth for your daughter's marriage. So that Varanasi Brahmana, he walked to Vrindavan on foot, and when he arrived there, he asked the villagers, where is this person Sanatana Goswami? And again, everyone knew Sanatana Goswami. So they pointed out his residence at that particular moment, which was, he was doing bhajan at Kaliagat on the Jamuna River. At that time, the Jamuna River flowed right past Kaliagat. That's now actually the Parikrama mark, by the way. So he was just there at Kaliagat, and the sand was flowing down to the river. And when that Brahmana arrived at Goswami's thatched cottage, he said to Sanatan, I went to Shankar, Mahadev, Lord Shiva, and he told me to meet you. And he said that you will give me some wealth for my daughter's marriage. So Sanatana Goswami just laughed. He said, I don't have any possessions. You can see that I have nothing but a loincloth and my mala and my water pot. But then he remembered a touchstone which someone had given him, and he had immediately thrown away. Somewhere into the sand, it's described. Into the sand. He threw it away. So he told the Brahmana, if this is what you want, then you go look in the sand somewhere over there. And I don't remember where I threw it, but you'll find a touchstone. So the Brahmana, he's so excited, and the sand's quite expansive there down by the river. He was digging like all day, and finally he found the touchstone. And as soon as, touchstones, they turn metal to gold. So he touched some iron, it turned to gold. So he's very happy that Mahadev had told him to come to Vrindavan, and so he left. But on the way back to Varanasi, his greed for money and wealth increased. And he began thinking, why did Sanatana Goswami keep the touchstone in the sand? It had no use there. He must have some more valuable jewels, something more valuable. So he turned around, actually. He came back to Vrindavan, and he went to see Sanatana Goswami again. So Sanatana Goswami asked him, like, why have you come back? So the Brahmana said, I've come because I know you have something more, you have more valuable jewels than this. You have more valuable jewels. So Sanatana Goswami smiled and he said, I do, but if I'm going to give them to you, you have to be prepared to renounce all illusory material wealth to obtain that jewel. If you do so, I will bestow upon you the most valuable jewel. Now, you can hear, or we can understand by hearing about this Brahmana, his why he's initially approaching Shiva, why he came to Vrindavan, why he got all that, got the touchstone and still wasn't satisfied. What was his state of consciousness? But it's described that in just a few moments, with just a few moments of association with Sanatana Goswami, the Brahmana from Varanasi had a complete change of heart. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastakoi. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Lavamatra is a fraction of a moment. In this particular meeting, somehow or other, perhaps due to the compassion of Srila Sanatana Goswami, the compassion, that Brahmana changed. And it's written that he ran towards the Jamuna River. And with all his power and all his might, he threw the touchstone into the Jamuna River. It's described like that. All his power and all his might, like, whoosh, be gone with you. He threw the touchstone in the Jamuna River. And that reminds me of a verse that we quoted a few lectures ago, but again, it's so appropriate. Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 744. What is the value of associating with Vaishnavas? Svachat prikir titash nikdu, madhur yas tirtha bhurniram, muni punat apam mitram, ikshopas pashra kirtanai. O king, a saintly person is just like water because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration just like flowing water. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity is purified. Just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water, thus a saintly person, just like a holy place, purifies all those who come in contact with him, because he always chants the glories of the Lord. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, all our Vaishnavacharyas, all of you ki jai. So afterwards, Sanatana Goswami told him, come here. And seeing that he had the spirit of renunciation, that he could get Krishna because of that spirit of renunciation, he whispered the Hare Krishna mantra into the right ear of that Varanasi Brahmana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then he told him, I do not have any worldly jewels, Sanatana said, but I have transcendental jewels, and the jewel of Lord Krishna and Sri Radha will come to you in a very short time if you chant that mantra. The jewel of Lord Krishna and Sri Radha will come to you in a very short time if you chant that mantra. So don't go anywhere else. Remain here. Your daughter's marriage will take place automatically. Stay here and chant Hare Krishna. So this is the Brajabasi version. I love the Brajabasi versions. Those people are so sweet. They're overflowing with Krishna consciousness. So that Brahman, he followed Sanatana Goswami's instruction. And it said that he actually became a very elevated saint. So we see that, Lord Shiva appreciated Sanatana Goswami because he knew he was a renowned saint and he could change the heart of this Brahmana. So Sanatan loved Shiva, Shiva also loved Sanatan. Let's see. Oh yeah. When Sanatana Goswami resided in Vrindavan, he would stay in different places in Vrindavan proper. And of course, one of his favorite places was at the Madan Mohan temple, because that's where his deity was, Madan Mohan. And it's described that he would walk a good distance every day to see Lord Shiva in his form as Gopishwara Mahadev. We know that pastime. Lord Shiva worshipped in the form of a gopi in the evening. So from Madan Mohan temple to Gopishwara, that's a walk. And one night, when Sanatana Goswami had grown very old, he was in his late 60s, early 70s, Gopishwara Mahadev appeared to him in a dream. And he instructed him, Sanatana, now that you are old, please do not go through so much trouble to walk all the way to my temple. Sanatana Goswami would have nothing of it. He said, but I must continue. I want to see you every day. So Gopishwara Mahadev said, then I will come and stay nearer to your residence. I'll come closer to you. I'll manifest myself as Bankandi. Bankandi is another name of Shiva. Bankandi. And true to his word, the very next day, Gopishwara Mahadev appeared halfway between Madan Mohan and Gopishwara Mahadev. He appeared halfway. You measure, it's halfway. He appeared in Bankandi temple, or as he's known, halfway. So seeing this, Sanatana Goswami became overwhelmed and with transcendental ecstasy. And from that day on, he visited Bankandi Mahadev every day. And that's a very nice temple to visit, actually. Many devotees just go to Gopishwara, well, not just go, I mean, the tradition is when pilgrim comes to Vrindavan, he first goes to Gopishwara Mahadev and asks his blessings to enter the Dham. Because Lord Shiva is one of the 5 personalities who grants entrance into and residence in Vrindavan. Govardhan and Vrindadevi, Giriraj, Shiva, like that. He's one of the 5 personalities. So we always go to Gopishwara Mahadev. But now hearing this pastime, you may also want to go to Bankandi, because that's where, that's an arrangement made by Gopishwara Mahadev for Sanatana Goswami out of love for him. So wherever he was, I was understanding that Sanatana Goswami could not live without his beloved Lord Shiva. Either Gopishwara Mahadev, Bankandi Mahadev in Vrindavan, Kameshwara Mahadev in the Kamivan forest, Chakeshwara Mahadev at Govardhan Hill. So now, while Sanatana Goswami was residing at, we're going to get back here to Chakratirtha, go back to Chakratirtha many times. While Sanatana Goswami was living at Chakratirtha on the banks of the Manasi Ganga at Govardhan, he would circumambulate Govardhan Hill every day. But he would take the outer path. I don't think most of you know the real outer path, not just the road going around, but there's another road way out there, a few miles away from Giriraj. And that also is considered a parikrama marg. He would go there because he didn't want to step on any Govardhan Shilas or offend any sadhus. He was so humble. So you go on that way and do that every day, outer parikrama path. And often he would offer 1,108 obeisances as he was going around. And once at the advanced age of, I think he was around 65, he was performing this Govardhan parikrama, but in the heat of the summer. So he sat down to rest, because you know how hot it gets here in India in the summer. I just went through it. I don't know how I made it. And now it's so cold, I don't know how I'm making it. Krishna's mercy. But he sat down briefly to rest. And at that moment, Krishna appeared in the guise of a local cowherd boy. He disguised himself. And after greeting Sanatana Goswami, who's sitting down, Krishna fanned him with his upper cloth. And Sanatana Goswami was thinking, this boy's fanning has the same soothing effect on my body as his voice, which I just heard, has on my heart. Because when Krishna came, he greeted him. Oh, Baba, what are you doing? He said, let me fan. So Sanatana Goswami thought, this boy's fanning has the same soothing effect on my body as his voice has on my heart. Then he said to Sanatana, Baba, you're too old to be doing parikrama every day. Now, although Sanatana was very tired, he tried to conceal his condition from the boy. Explaining, he just said, well, I've taken a vow to perform Govardhan parikrama every day. So the coward boy, Krishna, he just laughed and he embraced Sanatana Goswami and he picked him up and put him on his shoulder and started walking. He said, don't worry, Baba, then I will carry you. You don't have to walk, I will carry you. So in an attempt to stop the boy, Sanatana said, put me down. My vow is to walk around Govardhan Hill, not to be carried around it. Besides, how is it you're so strong, little boy? Who are you anyway? So at that point, Krishna made a beeline for Govardhan Hill, carrying Sanatana Goswami very quick. When they got to Govardhan Hill, you know, you can see the big shilas, the big boulders there, like at Govindakund. You can actually put your head on them. There, Krishna placed his foot on a large stone, leaving a deep impression in it. And seeing this, Sanatana finally understood who this coward boy was. Falling on the ground, he bathed Krishna's feet with his tears. And he offered the Lord very beautiful prayers. Then Krishna said, Sanatana, take this stone and worship it daily with tulsi leaves and water. Then walk around it 7 times. This will be equivalent to circling the entire hill. And with that, Krishna disappeared. And Srila Sanatana Goswami took that large Shila back to Chakratirtha, and for the rest of his life he served that Shila exactly as the Lord had personally instructed him. Of course, he took it when he went to other places as well, but that day he brought it back to Chakratirtha. So this is a very special place, this Chakratirtha. When you go on Govardhan Parikrama, you have to come inside a little bit. You know, on the road, actually, there's a road which, you know, comes into Govardhan a little bit, and you're allowed to go there and to go to the Manasi Ganga and to Chakratirtha. We should go there. Sing the pranam mantra to Manasi Ganga, to Chakratirtha. Remember all these wonderful pastimes. These pastimes are meant to be repeated again and again and again and again and again. We can do it because they're ever fresh. And we do it because we know what effect it has on our heart. Eventually it will awaken that which is most dear to us, Radha Krishna Prema. So another time, while Sanatana Goswami was doing his bhajan at Chakratirtha in front of Lord Shiva, with beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna, he became disturbed because of the many mosquitoes at Chakratirtha. We've heard this pastime before. So he started making arrangements to relocate back to Madan Mohan temple, back to that bhajan kutir. So then Lord Shiva, who's residing there as the Shiva Lingam, he was concerned that he would lose Sanatana Goswami's company. We're talking about love. So he assumed the form of an elderly brahmana. And approaching Sanatana Goswami, he said, Baba, where are you going? So Goswami replied, well, because the mosquitoes here are such a nuisance, I can't do bhajan properly. So without a proper bhajan, what is the purpose of continuing to live here at Chakratirtha? So Lord Shiva, in the guise of the Brahmin, he said, Prabhu, please remain here for one more day and see if Krishna does not make some arrangement for you. Remain here one more day and see if Krishna does not make some arrangement for you. So then Lord Shiva, he went and he summoned the demigod in charge of mosquitoes. There's lots of demigods, and they're in charge of everything. So when that demigod appeared, Lord Shiva ordered him, you get all the mosquitoes out of here. No more mosquitoes. So for a couple of days, Sanatana Goswami saw there were no more mosquitoes, so he continued to live there. And even today, if you go to Chakratirtha, there's no mosquitoes. So please visit Chakratirtha. On the banks of Manasi Ganga, the Ganges that came from the mind of Lord Krishna. You may remember that some months ago we said that all holy places in India are expansions of their original places in Braj. All holy places are originally here, and whatever's outside of Vrindavan, those are expansions. So therefore the original form of the Ganges, which we see flowing from the Himalayas to the sea, in its original form is present in Vrindavan as Manasi Ganga. And the Acharyas say that to please Krishna, Ganga Devi resides in Vrindavan. And what does she do? She constantly studies the Lord's mind, Ganga Devi, here in Vrindavan. She reveals the inner truths of Giriraj. She purifies devotees of all sinful reactions. She removes their misunderstandings about what is Prem Bhakti. And she qualifies pilgrims for service to Radha and Krishna. So the Acharyas say that although bathing in the Ganges that flows from the Himalayas down to the Bay of Bengal bestows liberation, bathing in the Ganga that flows across Govardhan Hill, meaning Manasi Ganga, bestows prem to Krishna. So we have no excuse for not becoming Krishna consciousness in this one lifetime. There's so many opportunities. Why should we be distracted by anything else in this temporary world? Krishna is present before us in so many ways. He's so kind. Now it's recommended that while bathing in Manasi Ganga, one should chant the following mantra from the Skanda Purana. Gange Dugdha Maya Devi Bhagavan Man So Bhave Nama Kaivalya Rupade Mukti De Mukti Bhagini. I hadn't actually mentioned it before, but this is the mantra. Gange Dugdha Maya Devi Bhagavan Man So Bhave Nama Kaivalya Rupade Mukti De Mukti Bhagini. O Goddess Ganga, who was extracted from the beautiful mind of Sri Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto your transcendental form that bestows liberation and more. As we know, the Acharyas give us a different glimpse. You get prema. That's from Skanda Purana. An interesting note is that before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed parikrama on Govardhan Hill, it's described that he prepared himself before going, as we do, like we prepare ourselves for doing puja, we prepare ourselves for going on Sankirtan. Mahaprabhu prepared himself for this great pilgrimage around Govardhan Hill, and that when he performed that parikrama, he followed the established tradition of first bathing in Manasi Ganga, and then visiting the nearby temple of Haridev. That was part of his preparation. He would first bathe in Manasi Ganga, and then he would go to the temple of Haridev. It's part of his preparations. And the Acharyas say that when Lord Chaitanya did his parikrama of Govardhan Hill, it was not the sort of parikrama that is commonly seen or heard of or performed these days. They say that in circumambulating Govardhan Hill, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not only followed the established parikrama marg, but he followed the path of intense ecstatic love. That's the path he followed, the deeper path. When doing Govardhan Parikrama, he followed the path of intense ecstatic love, which sometimes coincided with the established Parikrama marg, and other times took him elsewhere, to places not usually seen or heard of on Govardhan Hill. Wow. They say that the road less traveled. And his parikrama took many days. We can do it in a half a day, right? But no, he went slowly. He relished every step of the way. And it included the many forests that we discussed in our last lecture. All those forests unique to Govardhan Hill. You remember, we were describing them for 45 minutes. And all those who were fortunate to see or witness Mahaprabhu on Govardhan Parikrama were stunned to see his constant ecstatic emotions. Actually, I read that from the moment that Lord Chaitanya appeared on this earth, he overflowed with transcendental bliss. But when he entered Sri Vrindavan Dhama, the intensity of that bliss increased 1,000,000-fold. And even a new person coming to Vrindavan can get a sense of that. I've seen it many times over. You get a sense there's something special here. Very special. So when he entered Vrindavan, the intensity of Mahaprabhu's bliss increased 1,000,000-fold. So Prabhupada welcomed us so many times to come to Vrindavan. We must make the time. And hopefully when everything's cleared up, you can come by the thousands and thousands to Braj. So in every forest the Lord visited on Govardhan Hill, it's described he would embrace each and every tree and every vine. That's why it took him days. At the sight of cows grazing in Govardhan's forest, the Lord would run to them and then fall on the ground in tears. And if he saw a peacock feather on the ground while doing Govardhan Parikrama, he'd begin to tremble. Again he'd fall on the ground. He'd roll about and cry out madly. Then he would get up and he'd run here and there, and only to collapse and lose consciousness again. And upon seeing the forest creatures in Govardhan's forest, that would also cause him to faint in ecstasy. If he saw the animals or the birds, and then the animals, seeing him unconscious on the ground, like it's described, the deer would come forward and they would lick the foam. Because he's in ecstasy, he's foaming at the mouth in ecstasy. The deer would lick the foam from Mahaprabhu's mouth. And the birds would drink the tears that were falling from his eyes. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anga. He's the combined form of Radha and Krishna. So who can imagine the depth of that? Ecstasy was... we worship it from a distance. I hope we can come closer one day. Be like a bird or a deer there. So Mahaprabhu was in the mood of searching for Krishna. And if he couldn't find him, either in a cave on Govardhan Hill or in a forest, I read that he would roar with grief. And a roar that stopped peacocks from dancing and caused them to cry in fear. And because of these extreme ecstasies of separation that Mahaprabhu felt while doing Govardhan Parikrama, sometimes he was like, he'd get injured. At least we know his heart was broken. That's described. It's also described his body appeared to sustain injuries. So when he finally completed that Govardhan Parikrama, took him a few days, his companions became fearful for his welfare, being in Vrindavan. Because he'd just go into ecstasy and fall on the ground and roll and this, and sometimes he would sustain injuries and experience his ecstatic symptoms. So the day after Mahaprabhu completed his Govardhan Parikrama, his associates, like Balabhadra Bhattacharya is mentioned in particular, Balabhadra Bhattacharya and other concerned devotees, out of love, they forced him to leave Braj and return to Jagannath Puri, where he'd come from. That is Govardhan Parikrama. We cannot imitate, but we can try to do it with some appreciation, some affection, and hopefully one day with some love. Let us all follow in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his devout followers, like Sanatana Goswami. Follow that established Parikrama Marg and hopefully one day taste the love that those Brajabasis had when they did Giriraj Parikrama. Giriraj Govardhan Lal Vamsiwala Ki Tao Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sri Prabhupada Ki Govardhan Parikrama Ki. So we will close today's lecture with a beautiful passage that I found when I was researching Ujjvala Nilamani by Jiva Goswami. It's in a chapter called Entering Goloka. And I was reading it, I was thinking, wow, this would be a perfect way to end a lecture. It's about Govardhan Hill, so I was kind of saving it. So we'll finish today's talk with this beautiful description of Govardhan Hill by Srila Jiva Goswami. What could be better? And I quote, Govardhan Hill is the perfection of all gems. With an auspicious body, he appears to have been built by Vishwakarma, the best of all amazing architects in the universe. Devotees, eager for the association of Krishna and Balaram, come from far-off places to find the two transcendental brothers at Govardhan Hill in caves that are effulgent with emeralds and rubies. The women of Devaloka, burning in the fire of separation from Radha and Krishna, come to Govardhan Hill to cool themselves in a spot where there are emeralds streaked with gold in order to cool their hearts with that beauty. Krishna himself derives great pleasure from the many caves on Govardhan Hill, which appear just like opulent temples. Groups of trees appear to be like attractive towns on Govardhan Hill. On this transcendental mountain, birds seem to be engaged in conversations as if transacting business sales. Waterfalls appear everywhere, decorating the land and acting as faithful servants to the Lord and his companions. On one very special lake, on Govardhan Hill, in a house effulgent from bright, colorful lotuses, Krishna eternally sports with the milkmaids of Vrindavan, the Braja Gopis, who are attached to him in the sublime mood of Madhurya Bhav, unique in its purity and ability to control Krishna. Thank you, Srila Jiva Goswami. And thank you, Prabhus, for this opportunity to continue sharing with you all these wonderful, amazing pastimes in Vrindavan and details of Vrindavan, especially the last few talks on Giriraj Govardhan. We actually have, I think, enough material for a couple more lectures on Govardhan Hill. And in doing all that research, I've discovered many other places in Vrindavan that we can travel to by transcendental sound vibration, preparing us for that day when you all come back to Sri Vrindavan Dhama, and we go on that wonderful Govardhan Parikrama we're all looking forward to. So thank you. Accept my most humble obeisances to all of you. See you soon. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Goloka Vrindavan Dham ki. Take all the fallen conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead with us. Go Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Shyam. Thank you. See you soon.